Hi everyone, I'm Sanjana, J and J's Fireside Chat Coordinator, and I'm here with Carlos for another Fireside Chat. Carlos, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
So my first question for you is, can you tell us about your educational and professional backgrounds and the path that you took to get to where you are today?
Yeah, no problem. I grew up in El Paso, Texas, way west Texas, and I went to school in Austin, University of Texas in Austin. I was really into chemistry and math, and actually my grandfather was a chemical engineer. He's the one that kind of got me into it. Um, so I went to University of Texas at Austin. I graduated in 2009. I interned with Honeywell actually between my junior and senior years there in when I was studying. And I went to Shreveport, Louisiana for a summer. And I got a job offer after that. And so I finished up my school, my senior year. And then I joined a rotation program with Honeywell. It was 3 rotations of about 18 months or so each, and had no idea what I was signing up for. I just went for it. My first assignment was in Metropolis, Illinois. It's in the like the southern tip of Illinois, a small town. We made a UF6 there. It's like the early stages of nuclear power. So I was there for 18 months. It was engineering job, like process engineer, more on the operation. So what that means is that it's a big chemical plant where you have feeds, you have reaction, and you make another chemical. That's basically what I do. And I was in charge of the operation side, so actually running the equipment to get one chemical to convert it to another chemical. So I did 18 months. 18 months there, my first rotation, and then I was asked to pick my next choices, top 3 choices for my next rotation, and I listed a couple, and I ended up getting the third one on my list, which was in Geismar, Louisiana. I had no idea where Geismar was. Had never heard of it, but I said, "Oh, Louisiana's close to Texas. I'm just gonna put it on the list." So I ended up going to Geismar for 18 months, and it ended up being one of the best things that could have happened to me. I was a process engineer there in a refrigerant plant, 245 FA, where we made again, we took a chemical, reacted it with other chemicals, and we made a final product that was a refrigerant in this case. So I was there for 18 months, and towards the end of that rotation, a job opening came up in China. They were building the same plant where I worked. They were building one in China. So I took that job, and I was over there for about 3 years. I lived in just right outside of Shanghai, and as a manufacturing rep. So I helped with the early on design the plant, then commission and then start up. So just make sure all the equipment worked. After that, I came back to Geismar, Louisiana, as a operations manager for another new plant. It's a refrigerant for automobiles. It's the stuff that makes your air conditioning cool inside your car, a small amount of chemical. I was there for 5 years, and then I rotated again to my current role. I'm the site manager here in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. It's about an hour north of Philadelphia. And here we make Aclar film. It's a little bit different than the chemicals I had been used to. We make the clear packaging for blister packs, like your medicine, the clear pack. So that's what I do now. I've been here since April. And so far, it's been really good.
That's awesome. It seems like you got a lot of different experience in a lot of different roles. And I also like how you mentioned you were interning with the company at first and then were able to now work with them full time. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that gave me a really good opportunity just to when I jumped into chemical engineering, I like chemistry, I like math, but I didn't quite understand chemical engineering all that much. I just knew what my grandfather had told me, but a lot of my family's like in medical, so I was used to that. I didn't know any chemical engineering. So it was good to get just an introduction of what a chemical engineer does. It was a little bit difficult. I applied to a ton of internships, and one of the struggles is, to get an internship. Sometimes they value having other internships, so it's hard to get your first internship. But I was lucky once I got that first one. I was able to stay with the company afterwards, and I've been with the company for over 12 years now.
That's great. Yeah. And like you said, the best way to learn is through that real world experience that internships can give you. So it's hard getting one, but once you do, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, and actually using things from school, actually applying them, and it's once you start working, it is you learn a whole bunch of different things. Some stuff from school you do use, others you pick up as you start working. But it's been a very good and interesting career, very fun.
I agree. And it's good to hear that you've been having fun. So my next question for you is, did you have any significant extracurricular experiences in high school and or college that you feel really helped you later on in your career?
I think in college, I mainly did it for just to beef up my resume, to try to get that internship. But I did volunteer in chemistry labs, and at first I didn't think it was gonna impact my career much, because I really, once I finished my 4 years, I got my bachelor's degree. I was ready to work. I wanted to go out in industry and start working. So at the time, I was not interested in going to grad school. That's been an option more on the business side, but not really to continue down chemical engineering. I was done after my 4 years. I was ready to work. But I was able to work in the lab, and I worked with a lot of students that were working on their masters or PhDs, and it taught me about their work ethic and everything that they have to go through to get their graduate degree. I do work with a couple of PhDs. I say couple, a lot of PhDs now, and I understand their background, and we can talk, we can relate to each other. So I'm glad I did it. But I did volunteer for 2 years early on. I believe my freshman and sophomore years of college.
That's awesome. Yeah. And honestly, any experience you can get is going to be valuable in the long run. So it's good to hear.
And it was tough because University of Texas Austin, it's a pretty big school, and it was a little bit difficult to get like a paid job in a lab, but they'll take volunteers, and you get to work with graduate students that kind of take you under their wing. So it's interesting. You learn, but it also helps you develop, and helps you develop your resume as well.
Yeah, true. Especially in college, like sometimes the experience is just worth way more than the money. So it's better to just jump at those opportunities no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
So my last question for you is, what advice would you give to young people who will be embarking on their professional lives soon?
I think, the biggest thing, I think it's good to have a plan, but be flexible and don't be afraid to take risks. That's kind of been the story of my career, and I've really, really enjoyed what I've done. I would say that's the biggest thing is don't be afraid to take risks. If you try to plan out your career, or even your next 5 years, you may find that you're not even close. If someone had asked me if I would have lived in China or even gone to China, when I graduated, I don't think I ever would have, I never thought I would have been there, or, live in Illinois, Pennsylvania, Louisiana. So, but, I've really, really, really enjoyed it. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, would be to, just to recommend to people to keep an open mind, and don't be afraid to take risks.
Absolutely. That was great advice. Thank you for sharing. And thank you just overall for this session. You mentioned a lot of great stuff. I took a lot out of it, and I know everyone who views it will too. So thank you again.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks again for having me.